Okay, so all right. So today we are talking about um, something that we're supposed to do for a cohort that is cohort 2. So this particular cohort was 3.1. So this is management level, top management level. But we needed to allow most of you to join because we knew that we might not be able to accommodate all the cohort for the year. And please, by the time we are back in January, there's something that we must all learn um, to abide with timing. Now, I'm trying to, concentrate on the class. I'm having to go and admit people, and this is something we've talked about. We will say 7 o'clock. One of the things that I like about Tracy is that Tracy has always joined the classes far ahead of time. So if we say classes by 7, one of the things that Tracy has done, which is quite commendable, is that she joins the class 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Tracy has never joined a class late before, and that's something that is very commendable. So for those of you that are struggling to join, you see, you are giving us a whole lot of issues trying to admit you. So please, when we say a class starts 7, always try to be sure that you join the class at least 5 minutes. I always try to ensure that I start the classes 5 minutes ahead of time, or 10 minutes ahead of time. But for those of you that won't take instructions, you always come 5 minutes, 10 minutes late. So by January, the two last classes we are going to have, one at 7 o'clock, 1 minute after 7. We will not admit anybody into the class. So let's talk about something that is very interesting. That for those of you that are still supervisors, this will be very good for you. So please pay attention. So we said the supervisory skills for peak performance in the hotel industry. Now, I will try to. This class is very brief. It's not a very lengthy class, and that's why you must pay attention. Now, at the end of this training, participants should be able to understand the core duties and expectations of a hotel supervisor. Now, even if you're not a supervisor, you're already a manager. Now, the reason why you need to understand these things is because you cannot manage people when you don't understand what their core responsibilities are. Oftentimes, we expect supervisors to do the job of managers and vice versa. So, as a manager, if you're already a manager, you must know what your supervisors are supposed to do. And if you're a supervisor, you must use this opportunity to have a wider understanding of what you're supposed to do. So, at the end of this training, participants should be able to understand the core duties and expectations of a hotel supervisor, demonstrate effective leadership skills that drive service excellence, coordinate daily operations with confidence and professionalism, apply communication, delegation, coaching, and conflict resolution skills, improve team performance through structured supervision and monitoring, become a better, more intentional supervisor capable of supporting management goals. So these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lessons you should get from this training. Now, like I said, be you a manager, be you a consultant, one of the things that you must clearly do is that you must ensure that people that work for you or work under you understand what their job responsibilities, and the supervisors are key for you to be able to succeed and deliver excellently well. You must ensure that supervisors understand what their roles are and they know how to carry it out effectively. So please mute your mic, very important. Ensure that your mic stay muted. So I'm trying to, there are 2 people that are still hanging here to be let in. I'm trying to see if I can let them in. If I can't let them in, well, it's their luck. Decided to come late. Okay. Sorry, guys. 1 second. Let me see if I can let them in. If I can't. Okay, so unfortunately, I can't let them in. So it's their luck for today. All right, so we continue, guys. Let me go back to the slide to sharing. Sorry about that. Okay, so All right. So, okay. Let me try and make it full so that everybody can see the screen properly. Okay. So we said, yeah. So let's try to jump into introduction. Very important. Supervisors are the backbone of hotel operations. Now, so you see, in some facilities, you understand that if you run, if it's a hotel that run smaller operations, they don't have departmental managers, they tend to have supervisors. So what that clearly means is that even if you're running a bigger organization or you're running smaller organizations, you cannot do without supervisors. In fact, even the facilities that have the frontline managers, they end up having supervisors because they are the ones that interface directly, or get the task carried out, with the junior staff. So we said here that supervisors are the backbone of hotel operations. They connect management strategy with frontline execution. So when a manager draws out the strategy, draws out the action plan, somebody needs to be able to carry it out. And that's where the supervisors actually come into play. So we said here that supervisors are the backbone of hotel operations. They connect management strategy and frontline execution. Now you find a situation whereby most managers still end up being the manager. So when you see walk into some facilities, most of you might be making these mistakes. You walk into a facility where a manager draws up the strategy. Even when he discusses the strategy with the supervisors, he still goes ahead to implement the strategy. Now, what is happening is that first of all, you don't have confidence in what you've told them. You don't have confidence in your strategy. That's why you're going, forward to ensure that you're the one that implements it. There's actually nothing wrong in supervising, what you've asked them to do. But going ahead to be the one to implement it when you've already communicated these things to your supervisors shows that, first of all, you don't even have confidence in what you're trying to push out. You don't have confidence that people actually believe that, okay, you have this right strategy, to push the brand forward. So once you start having that, that's why you see yourself doing everything. So you walk into most facilities and you see that the managers are there 24/7. They can't go anywhere. They can't go on leave because they've not been able to allow people to implement their strategy. So where supervisors become very important is that they are the people that help you, to implement your strategy. So once you've been able to draw up a strategy, supervisors are the people that help to implement the strategy because they are the closest to the staff. Now, this training provides you with the practical tools, behaviors, and mindset needed to supervise teams, deliver consistent service, resolve issues, and ensure guest satisfaction. That is what this training is supposed to do. And like I said, irrespective of your position, a manager, a consultant, supervisor, once you understand this, it will help you to be able to, implement your processes swiftly, and very efficiently because you now know that, yes, your job is made simple when you have supervisors that can carry out, your instruction effectively because they understand where you're coming from. And one of the best ways to do this is ensuring that whatever you're developing and that needs people to, implement them for you, you develop them with those people as part of the team that puts these things together. They will run with it. Now, let's look at key definition so that you can guide whatever we are doing here. Supervision. So first, let's talk about supervision. Supervision is the process of guiding, supporting, and monitoring employees to achieve expected standards of performance. It's the process of guiding, number one. So you guide, you support, you monitor employees to achieve expected standards, of performance. I keep saying that when I see managers and supervisors shout on junior staffs, and yeah, you now check and or when you ask them if those processes were communicated to them, they tell you no. Their experience, they should know the supervisor has failed or the manager has failed because, like I keep saying, it's like a system, a garbage in thing and a garbage out thing. You can't garbage out what you've not garbage in. Now, so before you start shouting on your staff, ask yourself, have I communicated expectations to them? Every supervisor should be communicated expectations. So it means from the manager, before you shout on your supervisor, you should ask yourself, have I communicated clear-cut expectations to them? So because supervision is simply the process of guiding, supporting, and monitoring employees to achieve expected standards of performance. Now, who is a supervisor? That's supervision. Who is a supervisor? A supervisor is simply a team leader responsible for managing staff, ensuring operational efficiency, maintaining service quality, and resolving issues in real time. That's who a supervisor is. Now, I won't dwell too much in most of these definitions. I'll just pick it, do a touch point, and I move. Now, so when we talk about hospitality standards, we've talked about standard all through our training. We said these are rules, procedures, and behavioral expectations that ensure consistent service delivery. And lastly, team performance. Now, team performance simply means the combined productivity, attitude, and service quality of all your staff members. Combined productivity. So if it's not combined productivity, it means it's not team performance. That's just individual effort that looks like, okay, your team is doing well. So that's one person that is trying. Now, but let's move, guys, because this was just key definition. So we now understand what supervision is, and we said supervision is process of guiding, supporting, and monitoring employees to achieve expected standards of performance. We talked about who a supervisor is, and we said is a team leader responsible for managing staff, ensuring operational efficiency, maintaining service quality, and resolving issues in real time. That word very key, real time. Now, you cannot be having supervisors in a system and problems are not solved in real time. Now, you see, I always said it, when you enter a system where you find that complaints are not solved in real time, most times it's because the process of the supervisors have not been empowered. That's number one. When supervisors are not empowered to solve certain problems, solving issues in real time would be a problem. Now, for an example, I keep saying it, that you cannot set standards. You cannot talk about standard operating procedures. You cannot talk about quality assurance without, assimilating problems, what could happen in every department, and trying to talk about what the possible solutions are, and giving your supervisors the mandate to be able to take certain actions. Once problems have been assimilated, circumstances are analyzed, it will help your supervisors, it will equip them with the needed, tool to be able to solve problems in real time. So it means that, your supervisors need to be, equipped with the right information to be able to solve problems in real time. So when you find a system where there's a manager, there's a supervisor, and problems are not solved in real time, it means that system is in complete chaos. It means all of them, from the manager to the lowest person, do not know what they are doing. Maybe because clearly there's no SOPs or there's no quality assurance. So we've talked about team performance. I'll quickly move because we are going somewhere. Now, the role of a hotel supervisor and why it matters. Why is that role very important? Now, number one, a supervisor is responsible for ensuring service standards are met at all times. Now, when you set those service standards as a manager, as a consultant, there must be somebody that is closer to the staff, that sees them work almost 24/7. And those are the people who use to implement standard. But you see, before you give these people those roles or those responsibilities, you must ask yourself, does this person even have a clear understanding of what standards are? Does this person live according to standard? Does this person even meet the standard that is expected of someone that is enforcing, standard? Let me give you a practical example so you understand. When you have an operational manager that doesn't dress well, doesn't wear maybe clean shoes, doesn't know how to look good, clean shaved, well-ironed shirt, and maybe look good, wears a suit. The suit doesn't need to be necessarily expensive, but appears good every time. When you have such a person as an operational manager that doesn't know how to pay attention to grooming and neatness, it will be very hard for that person to enforce the policy of neatness and proper grooming because the person does not look it. But there's how you give certain positions to a person, and by just looking at the person carries the charisma and the personality, enforce that thing that you want, your supervisors or your managers to do. So when you are assigning roles to people as a supervisor, as a manager, you must ask yourself, okay, so first of all, let me do it this way. As a manager, be you an operations manager, be you a general manager, or be you a consultant, when you're giving people certain responsibilities to help you implement certain policies and standards, look at them, analyze their personality. First of all, ask yourself if these people meet certain criteria of someone that can implement certain policies. There are people that by just walking past, these ones does not carry what it takes to drive certain policies. So that's number one thing that you must do. So a supervisor is responsible for ensuring service standards are met at all the time. So for you as a supervisor, one of the things you must do is that you must know what the service standard is in your department. So first of all, write it out. If your company doesn't have, right, but if your company has, sit down and look at the service standard with your staff. Look at it with your managers. Let your managers tell you what his expectations are. Now, the mistake most supervisors do is that they just take a job and they don't ask their supervisor, their managers, what is the expectation? What does the management want me to do? What is the benchmark? What is the KPI? So as a supervisor, One of the things you must do when you take up a job is that you must ask for clear expectation. What is expected of you? Not that you don't know what you are doing, but there might be a reason why you're employed into that space. There might be a problem the company wants to solve. So clearly ask for what the expectation is. And you that is a manager that has a supervisor, you must clearly give the supervisor an expectation, service expectation, standard of delivery, time of delivery, the level of efficiency you want to see. It must be clearly stated for them to be able to perform well. You must clearly state it. Number two, now a supervisor is responsible for coordinating staff shift, duties, and breaks. That one is very common, so I won't even dwell there. Number three, the supervisor is responsible for monitoring guest experiences and resolving complaints, guest experiences. So recently, I was talking to the admin of the group, that's Mr. Victor, and he just shared something that I really want every manager or a consultant, if you run a brand, I want us to really look at. So he just shared an experience that the facility is currently working with has a customer care agent that has a very beautiful charisma and personality, that works in the restaurant. There's one person in the restaurant, there's one person in the bar, there's one person around the front desk. Their job is simple. When there's service engagement and it looks like there's an issue, they immediately step in. If a customer walks into the space and there's no waiter or waitress to attend to them immediately, the customer care person quickly steps in and closes the gap immediately. What you're saying there is clear job description. That person has a clear job description to ensure that they prevent customers from complaining. They close the gap before it even, the customer even shouts about it. And even when there's a gap, before the customer even makes a case out of it, they are there to quickly close the gap. What is happening is that they are monitoring guest experiences and immediately resolving complaints. That's what supervisors should do. So let me give you guys an example. I always find it very funny when you walk into a lounge, a bar, or a restaurant, and you see supervisors wearing suit and walking around, commanding staff left, right, center, without engaging the customers. What are you supervising? Now, I clearly tell every manager and a supervisor that is on this group today, if you want to be a working manager, supervisor that is visible, that solves problems, anytime you find yourself on the floor of service and the service going on, you have customers, people are attending to, engage your customers. Walk up to your customers, ask them about their experiences. If you see that the customer has waited for a while, walk up to them, ask them if they've been attended to, be seen, be heard, engage the customers, be in the face of the customers. That's the best way to monitor service and close out problems before it even becomes, an issue that you discuss in a management meeting. So I move. A supervisor is responsible for acting as a link between management and employees. I've talked about that when we started. Now, a supervisor is supposed to support training, coach, and help in team development. That's what a supervisor is supposed to do. But you see, how would a supervisor support in team development or coaching when they don't even know what they are doing? So what it clearly means is that as a manager or a consultant, before you even employ a supervisor, because they are going to coach, because they are going to interface with your staffs, ask to know if they have the necessary level of experience that will enable them coach or train people. Because most times, this is where we have a problem. A supervisor comes with an experience that is not up to the level you wanted. But because they are interfacing with customers, they transfer that level of experience that is not even up to par to your staff. And that's the level of service your customers would enjoy, because you did not bother to check and ask the level of experience that this supervisor has. You just wanted to close the gap and have a supervisor in your space. So it's very important to know the level of experience that your supervisor actually has. Now, lastly, a supervisor is responsible for upholding hotel policies and maintaining discipline. I keep saying this and I will emphasize this again. For managers and supervisors that are male, one of the fastest ways to kill the discipline in a facility is when you start crushing or sleeping with your female staff. It kills the discipline in that space almost immediately. Now, so one of the responsibilities of a supervisor is, number one, you have to be able to maintain standard. We talked about standard, monitor guest experience, train and coach your staff. Then, most importantly, upholding hotel policies and maintaining discipline. Whatever is not measured cannot be achieved, cannot be ascertained. Now, when you don't put policies and discipline in place, abuse is inevitable. There will be abuse across board. For an example, let's use phone for an example. You see, when policies were made that phones should not be allowed, people thought Most of us, when we're junior staff, we thought the company did not like us. But as we grow in the industry, you get to see what phone does. Staff that are on duty that are with phones tend to lose concentration faster than anything. Phone is a big distraction. So when you don't put most of these policies in place, you walk into facilities, you see staff putting phones at the back of their pocket, and this any little thing, they are distracted because they want to see what is happening on the phone. So you employ a supervisor. If you're a supervisor, one of your key responsibilities is to be able to uphold hotel policies and maintain discipline. And this discipline must start from you. First of all, it's very important. I move. Why does supervision matter? Now, or why do you need a supervisor? Or why are you a supervisor in that space? Now, supervisors directly influence the guest experience. I would keep saying this. As a supervisor, you can influence your guest experience more than your general manager. And ask me why. Now, you are the one that is closest to your staff and you get to see how they interface with the customer. I always tell every supervisor, be more relevant than your manager because you are close to the guest. Engage them. Let them know you by name. Let them know you by face. Let them know you by your act. Let the guest know you for how proactive you are. That will get you, that particular act to make you the go-to person for the guest, to endear you to the guest. And most times, that's the reason why the guests will come back, because the guest is assured that that facility, their supervisors are swift, not the manager, because the general manager might be nowhere to be found because he or she is handling bigger things. But as a supervisor, most times I ask myself, why do supervisors have offices? As a supervisor, how do you supervise from the office? You're supposed to be on the floor of where it is actually happening. So when I see most supervisors ask for office, don't quote me wrong, it is not bad. But most of us tend to abuse it. We think it's a right. So we go sit down in the office, pressing our system. The only time as a supervisor you can sit on your system to press system is when maybe you're doing a report. Every other time, you're supposed to be on the floor of service, supervising, because that's that word is you cannot supervise on your system. So I said the supervisors directly influence the guest experience. Your effectiveness determines the quality of service. Please look at that again. Your effectiveness determines the quality of service. Most times, just by being around your staff, interfacing with the guests, jumping into the flow of service, and being seen makes them sit up and do better. So as a supervisor, as a manager, you must teach your supervisors to be at the forefront. You ask them, you have a banqueting and halls needs to be set up. Supervisors cannot just sit in their office and coordinate. They must be in the hall while that setup is happening. Now, let me share an experience. I have been a banquet supervisor, and every time we had a banqueting meeting, while I plan and draw the sketch for my staff, before they even finish maybe their floor service or whatever, I'm already in the hall. I've started the service before they come. So that it gives them the impression and the mindset that, wow, I'm not just a sitting supervisor. I do what I ask them to do, and it makes the job easy. They run faster when they know that you're not a sitting supervisor, but you're a working supervisor. Now, it says here, the morale of your team and ultimately the result delivered to the hotel. So let me read that again. Your effectiveness determines the quality of service, the morale of your team, and ultimately the result delivered to the hotel. That's your effectiveness. And this your effectiveness can only be felt when you directly get yourself involved with the guest. You cannot be, because the supervisor say, no, let them, do it. I'll just stand and watch. You're not supervising well. Now, let's understand the supervisory role. This is very important. Now, to understand your role clearly, so when I say your role clearly, as a manager, you're still a supervisor. You're just a senior supervisor. As a consultant, you're still also a supervisor, but only at this point, you have people that are doing the job for you. But most times, you need to be out there to be seen. You need them to know that you know what they are supposed to do, and you are looking at what they are supposed to do, So, let's look at this. To understand your role clearly, you must know what you are responsible for. Number one, as a supervisor, clearly, what are you responsible for? So as a manager, as consultant, you must clearly state this out for them. What are they responsible for? Quality of service, delivery, this, you must state that out for them. Now, who you report to, very important. That's something you must know. Who reports to you? Now, as an housekeeping supervisor, if you work in a system that there's a front desk supervisor, you should understand that the front desk staffs are not reporting to you. They have a supervisor. So your Connection to the front desk is through their supervisor. Now, I'm just using that as a simple explanation so you know. Now, as a supervisor, you must know what standards you must uphold. So clearly, what are the standards you're expected to uphold as a supervisor? So as a manager, you must tell your supervisors what are the expected standards for them to uphold. As a supervisor, you must seek to know. So even when you're coming from a place where you were doing certain things, when you walk into another system, you must seek to know what standards you're upholding, because two different systems might have different standards they are trying to uphold. Now, the next one is what authority you have to make decisions. Clearly, you see, two different brands might give you two different decisions, two different authorities. So when you are working with a brand, clearly as a supervisor, ask to know your limit and boundaries, what you shouldn't cross, so that you don't do things expecting because you're a supervisor, you get back. So you must clearly have these things well spelled out and well defined. It will help to make your job very simple and make your job efficient. Now, a supervisor must operate with these following things. Number one, awareness. You must be aware. You cannot be a supervisor in a space and you don't have this, you don't have a vast level of awareness. By awareness, we mean you must be steps ahead of your staff. You must be steps closer to your manager. You must understand the service deliverables, your environment, your product, your services, and how to even make it better. So you must have clear awareness of the environment you find yourself and the expectations therein. You must be accountable. One of the things you cannot play with as a supervisor is accountability. Now, you're accountable for your staff, you're accountable for your service, you're accountable to the guest, you're accountable to everything around that space. So you're accountable not only to your general manager. So these are the different people you're accountable to. You're accountable to your staff because you're a servant leader. That's why you're a supervisor. So you're accountable to these different people. Then you're accountable to service because you're supposed to uphold the standard of service in that space. Then you should operate with a level of professionalism. You see, professionalism is simply acting and behaving in a certain way. So as a supervisor, you're expected to act and behave in a certain way. For an example, you cannot walk into your staff drinking cocktail that they just mixed, and that's company product, they mix and drink, and you just say, oh boy, pass me that glass. You're not acting as a supervisor. So I'm just using one thing as an illustration. You just go to the staff canteen and your staff are gathered somewhere eating. You go and sit in their middle. There must be something that clearly stands you out. Being friendly with them is good, but there are things you must do that stand you out as a supervisor. You can be friendly, but you need to draw a line between being friendly and being over friendly. Being over friendly will get you too familiar, and when they are too familiar with you, they'll see you as one of them, and instructions will not be taken. Understand this: a supervisor is not one of the boys. He's a leader. A supervisor is somebody that supervises the boys or the girls, as the case may be. Now, as a supervisor, must operate with leadership discipline. We've talked about leadership throughout this in the course of this training. So you must operate with leadership discipline. Then you must have a very strong hospitality mindset. Now, when I say hospitality mindset, excellence should ring in your head. Now, that if it's not excellent, it's not enough. What I mean by that is that you can't be a mediocre. You can't try to subvert, excellent service and say, well, let's just manage that one for today. Let me give you a practical example. If something is not good, it's not good. If let's say the hotel has 80 rooms and 79 rooms has been sold, and one room, the AC is not working very well. As a supervisor, your job should be to stamp your feet and say, we are not selling it because the AC is not working, not to say, okay, let's give the guest fan to manage for this night alone. What you're doing is that you're subverting excellent service for money that might end up haunting the hotel for the rest of the year or for the rest of its service, period. So you must have a very strong hospitality mindset. It's very important. Now, how do you approach supervisory role? It's very important. Like I said, this training today was definitely going to be very precise, straight to the point, and tact. So you get to learn a lot, be it as a manager, whatever, so you can implement this thing. Now, how to approach supervisory role? Plan the day early. So I keep saying this. When see, even for us that do training, for those of you that do training, if you don't plan for the day, even no matter how good I know this slide, no matter how well I know this slide, before I jump on this slide, I have to take time and go through this slide again. That's how you plan. So as a supervisor, don't say, don't worry, I know what to do. No, you plan each day. What you did yesterday is not. So you might have a job that, the sequence is almost the same. But you must plan each day because, what you did yesterday, today might have to start another process. So you must plan each day early. Now, check your handover notes, very important. I will just run through. Verify your staffing levels. Most times, a supervisor will miss certain points. If you notice that for an housekeeping person, if you notice that currently you're working with, let's say, 6 staff, like I'll use an example because one of us, complained something to me this week, and it was very much on point and tact. I understand something. Most times, your push for excellence might get you in trouble if you're working with honors and people that don't understand why you're pushing for that level of quality of service. So I will explain that further, but I'm just leaving it there for now. Now, assuming you're an housekeeping person or an housekeeping supervisor, as the case may be, or an F&B manager, and you've been notified that the next 1 week you're going to be having banqueting, you're going to be having pool party, you're going to be having a lot of activities, and let's say you're currently running with 15 staff, and they're definitely going to go on off duties, and your next 1 week is extremely busy, and you don't do something about it, it means you're planning to fail. Because a smart manager, a smart supervisor will sit down and look at his rota and see people that are going on off, look at the days, see how to plan it in such a way that even if you have to sit down with your staff, beg them and take their off duty for a while and give it to them when you're less busy. But there has to be that planning. Now, so when you don't plan, you are simply planning to fail. So this is where supervisory comes in. So when we talk about verify staffing level, check handover notes, this is how you get through your daily activities without looking incompetent. Now, review room status, occupancy, event, VIP list, or special request. As a supervisor, assign duties based on strength. So this is one thing you must also learn to understand. And I tell every manager, you see, because you have 12 waiters, that doesn't mean that the 12 waiters know how to serve. Now, out of your 12 waiters, you might have the ones that are good in clearing. You might have the ones that are good in going for room service. Might have the ones that smile very well. You might have the ones that are good in calculating money. You might also have people that are good in punching, orders into the system. You must know your staffs by their strength. Somebody might be very good and can save 10 tables, but when it comes to calculating the money, they make a whole lot of blunders. That doesn't mean that staff is incompetent. It is your job as a supervisor to find where that person is more fitted and assign that person to that space, so that you can bring out the very best in that person. Most of us make these mistakes. Just because a staff did not calculate an amount of money very well, you call the staff a thief, and maybe you send them a suspension. Have you bothered to see if that staff has better strength somewhere else? So this is where supervisory skills or supervisors have to bring their skills on board. So assign duties based on strength, need, and business levels. B, lead by example. Show the behaviors you expect. Very important. I don't know how to overemphasize this. Show the behavior you expect, which I've categorized it: punctuality, grooming, communication, and work ethics. It is very important. You see, most times before you even talk, people have already analyzed your attitude and everything. So what you're now saying, they are now trying to marry with your personality that they've seen over time and see if it matches. So people watch everything you do. So as a supervisor, as a manager, one of the things you must learn to do is that you must lead by example. You want people to be punctual, lead by example. Grooming, you want people to look good. Do you look good? How do you communicate? And your work ethics. Now, people learn a lot. People pick our work ethics a lot. So whatever you do, if you're an hardworking supervisor, your staff will definitely see. If you're a supervisor that before it's 5 o'clock or before it's 6 o'clock, you carried your bag, everybody will know in the system. And these junior staffs are the fastest to start talking about things. So another approach to supervisory role is that you lead by example, delegate effectively. So this is where you must know where people's strengths are, and you know what people can do and what they cannot do, and you must learn to delegate these things, delegate tasks to them according to their strength and what they can do. Assign tasks clearly with timeline and expectations. One of the mistakes we make as supervisors and managers is that when we assign tasks, it is not clear. So every task you assign to staff must be very clear, very, very clear. I'm trying to look at what to use an example. People to let's say set up a poolside. Give them clear indication of the kind of setup you want, where the setup should face, the number of people you're expecting, the things you want to see on the table. Let every task you delegate to people be very clear with timelines. By 2 o'clock, I want that hall to be ready. I want it smelling this. Be very specific with your timelines and expectation. This is how you bring out the best in people without confusing them. Then Let's talk about C. Okay, that was C. Delegate effectively, assign tasks. D. Monitor performance. These are still under how to approach supervisory role. Monitor performance. Now, one of the things you must learn to do is observe staff behavior, service delivery, and guest interactions while you are supervising your staff. Monitor how they engage with customers. It's very important. There's no way you sit and watch your staff for 1 hour. You will definitely know the ones that have better communication with customers, because you see it by the customer's body language. You see it by who the customers want to serve them most. You see, these are different ways you use to know which of your staff is actually doing well and which one is doing well and which one needs training or which one needs to be reassigned to another place. It's very important. E, solve problems early. Address issues before they escalate, either with guests or staff. Very important. You cannot solve problems early if you are not around the space where the problem is happening. So as a supervisor, you must be around where the action is actually taking place. You see, I find it very funny that most times a pool bar will be full, a rooftop bar will be full, a restaurant will be full with activities, and a supervisor is in his office. What did the company pay you for? That is the peak of the action. And when then the action is where you're supposed to be, not sitting inside the office and doing nothing or pressing your phone and saying I'm doing report. You should definitely be where the action is. Because without that action that pays you money, you will not be doing that report. Then F, maintain standard. Ensure housekeeping, F&B, front office, grooming, SOPs are always upheld. Maintain standard. So this standard, this is actually across every department. Housekeeping, F&B, front office, safety, grooming, SOPs are always upheld. Very important. Now, so let me run this very fast. What are the daily operations of a hotel supervisor? Number one, shift opening responsibilities. Very important. So I'll run through this. Review logbooks, handover notes, conduct a quick briefing. Now, please, I will tell you this. As a supervisor, as a manager, or as a consultant, one of the things you must push your people to do, push your supervisors to conduct daily briefing. Now, this daily briefing is not prayer meeting. So let me say this. See, we are very godly people, but when we say do briefing is not where you go and start doing worship, praise and worship. No, daily briefing is straight to the point. Address issues of previous shift, challenges, their achievement. Then, talk about expectations for the shift that just took over. That is what we are talking about. So you must learn to do briefing. So as a manager, as a supervisor, you must ensure that briefing is part of your daily plans. Briefing can be 10 minutes. Briefing can be 15 minutes at most. And it must talk about specifics. Now, briefing. So let me tell you one of the best things about briefing. You see those handover notes that different shifts, right? Now, it is always better when those things are handled in briefing. 10 minutes, everybody stands together and talks about what was their challenge, what is expected of the next shift, and briefing is very good because he handles these things one-on-one. Nobody has to wait to read, or you don't have to wait until you have read something. This one, everybody's talking about it. So it's very straightforward, very specific, and it's very efficient. So please, in whatever you do as a supervisor, as a manager, if you're a manager, teach your supervisor to always do briefing and give them a clear expectation of what the briefing should entail. Now, so that's shift opening responsibilities. Check staff attendance and grooming. Very important. When your staff resume every day as a supervisor, as a manager, teach your supervisor to be able to do this. That's why, you see, when I see managers, most times that deal a lot with staff when they have supervisors, I tend to believe that they don't know what they're doing. Let me share an example. So one of those days I was at a co-hotel and the general manager walked past a staff. The staff was not properly dressed. One of those periods I was with my friend, Mr. Excel. So the manager didn't say anything. He just looked at the staff again. They have name tags. He just looked at the staff again. It wasn't up to 20 minutes. We saw the staff being called into an office. I think it was the F&B manager's office or thereabout. The manager did not need to talk to his staff. The general manager needed to talk to the manager of that department, and the manager needed to trigger it to the departmental head, and that's how they called that staff. Now, what that manager did was showing that just because they are seeing something now, with a junior staff does not mean that you should call that junior staff and embarrass that junior staff. He had to look for the source. He had to go to the head of the department and say, look at what I've observed. I need this thing solved now and immediately. Now, so that's one thing you must learn to understand. As a manager, you must be able to pass in certain instructions and certain expectations through the head of the department. Not because you cannot call the staff and shout on them, but you're telling them or trying to make them understand that you see what is happening and you expect, a better, outcome from that particular thing. Now, so assign positions and tasks. Every day you must learn, even when you've already assigned positions, every day you must be sure that people understand what they are doing and they are doing what they are supposed to do. Inspect the work area for readiness. Now, even if you see, when we say inspect work areas for readiness, you don't have to go and start carrying tables or whatever. It's just a walkthrough, a daily walkthrough. That's why I said the best managers are not actually the ones that sit around the office doing nothing. The best managers are actually the ones that walk around and look at the way things are being done. Because a simple walk around the corridor can give you an idea if your staffs are actually doing what they're supposed to do. So that's shift opening responsibility of a supervisor. Number two, during the shift, monitor guest interaction is very important. Ensure SOPs are followed. So every day in your head as a supervisor, your job is to ensure that SOP is delivered daily at every point of guest interaction. The SOP is followed. Very important. Now, support staff when they are overwhelmed. See, this one is not something I should talk more on. Now, when you notice that your staffs are running up and down, they are overwhelmed, even if it's housekeeping, jump in and assist them. Housekeeping, F&B, kitchen. As a supervisor, when you notice that your staffs are overwhelmed, one of the best things you do to help push their morale up is that you jump in and assist them. It really shows them that your supervisors are lead by example. Resolve guest issues professionally. Now, inspect rooms, service. So inspect room, service stations, or work areas. I will not do much on that. Communicate with other departments, very important. Maintain records, report, and checklist. Number three, shift closing responsibilities of a supervisor. Collect reports and update logbooks, very important. Now, it's very important that, like I said, I keep saying that you create a system that people do reporting. People don't just hurry and close shift. Now, the reporting should be very specific. Create a system that makes report very simple. The report should be factual, not glory be to God, blah, blah, blah. It should be very factual. If you are in the restaurant, covers that was sold, the best-selling cover, the highest selling cover for the day, guest complaint if there's any, guest recommendation if there's any. Now, these are facts, straight to the point. That if somebody picks up a report, it's clearly straight to the point. So recently, we had a facility that we're consulting for. And I noticed that every time they will always have two receptionists, but when the two receptionists resume, you always see one person writing notes. One day I now asked them to bring the note. It was handover note, 4 pages, full 80 leaf, 4 pages of gibberish. Those things can be reduced to one small sheet, one small plain, simple 5 lines of fact of whatever happened. What are you writing in 4 pages of document? Who has time to read 4 pages? So you cannot expect efficiency with that kind of a system where people have to read 4 pages. How many minutes do you need to read 4 pages of document? When you can just have your report on a simple sheet and somebody can glance through and understand what they are supposed to do and what they are not supposed to do. So part of the shift closing responsibilities is that collect reports from your staff and update your logbook. Very important. Ensure that all tasks are completed. So at the beginning of a shift, there must be tasks that is assigned. So when they are closing, you must be sure that this task is accomplished. Ensure that all tasks are completed. Give accurate handover to the next shift. Very important. Secure the work area. That's your responsibility as a supervisor. Now, what are the skills that are required for a peak supervisory performance? Now, for you to be a supervisor that performs at the topmost level. Now, what are the skills that are required? Number one is leadership skills, ability to influence and motivate the team. One of the things you must learn to do is you must learn to lead people by influence, not by shouting on them. Now, shouting is not influence. Shouting is how will I put it? Shouting is intimidation. Yes, that's the word. When you shout on people, you are intimidating them. Meanwhile, you're supposed to lead them by influence. When your staff know that you're very good in that particular field that you're supervising them, they learn to do things without you shouting on them. Now, just by you putting them through and making them understand why that thing should be done, they will definitely do it because they know you know what you're talking about. So you have to learn. One of the things that will help you to be a peak performing supervisor is that you must lead by good influence, not by trying to intimidate people. Number two, you must communicate skills. You must have good communication skills. It's very important. Now, when we say good communication skills, number one, your instructions needs to be very clear. So when you're passing instructions to your staff, make it very clear. Very clear. Even if you have to put it in writing, make it very clear, precise, what you want them to do, how you want them to do it, the timeline, expected outcome of what you want them to do. Very clear. So your communication as a supervisor that wants to perform, at the topmost level needs to be very clear and very precise. You must also learn to listen, to your staff. Very important. Learn to listen. Most time they might be saying gibberish, but because you pay attention, you endear them to you, so they will come back to you again and again because they know you listen to them when they actually tell you things. Now you must learn to actually talk to your staff in a very professional way. You see, most times, no matter how you feel angry, you must learn to accommodate them because you know that yes, different people, different emotions. So you must be a father figure or a mother figure, to them. So your tone is what will communicate these things to them. Number C part of the skills you require for peak supervisory performance, problem solving. You must be a supervisor that your staff know that when they come to you, you solve problems, not escalate or make the problem bigger than what it is. There are supervisors that when staff go to them, staff fear to go to them because they can't solve problems, so that they make the problems look bigger than life. So first of all, you must appear to be somebody that solves problems. So quick decisions, you must be somebody that thinks very fast when issues arise. Now you must be creative in your solutions. You must be composed even under pressure. You see, it's very sad when you see supervisors confused in the midst of pressure. Supervisor is confused. So I recently facility. Let me just share this because they're not here. I recently opened a facility that I walked away very fast because the owner employed some set of people that were inexperienced and called them supervisors. And you see, you pass instructions, they don't know what they're doing. You give them everything I tried to do, they clearly didn't know what they're doing. But those are the people that the owners wanted as supervisor. The day they opened the facility, I'm sure they had shortages up to 1 million because even the person the owner employed as an F&B supervisor was as confused as anything. So I allowed them to do their thing. I allowed them to make their mistakes so that the owner will see that he has made a very terrible mistakes in the choice of a supervisor. So you see, one choice of a supervisor can actually mar a business. So during the opening of that hotel, the supervisor was confused, the staffs were confused, and I was just looking at them because once the head is confused, the tendency that every other person will be confused is 90% or 99%. Now, so one of the things you must learn to do is that as a supervisor, you must be composed under pressure. And what will help you to be composed under pressure is when you know your onions, you know what you're doing, and you have all the things you need to be able to handle problems when it arises. That's the only thing that will give you composure when you're under pressure. D, time management. One of the things you must learn to do as a supervisor is that you must learn to prioritize tasks. Every day, I keep saying this, as a manager, as a supervisor, every day when you get to work, prioritize your tasks. What are the things that are very urgent? You see, not everything that is urgent can actually bring results. So there are things that are very urgent, but they are not, things that you need to do for that day. For an example, let me use one. For an example, if you have, let's say, you have a generator that needs servicing, and you have a water heating system that has gone bad. Now, and the funds the company has is not enough to solve the both problems. You have to understand that, yes, while both of them are urgent, one of them can actually get somebody slapped immediately and hot water. So if a guest wants to bath, and maybe you're using a central water heater system, and the guest wants to bath and does not have hot water, bringing water in a bucket, belittles the hotel. So you must understand that, one of them needs to be prioritized and done immediately, while the other one, when being prioritized, cannot be solved in that particular day. This is how you have to learn to prioritize things as a manager. So time management, understanding how to prioritize things according to time and importance is very key as a supervisor or as a manager. Managing workflow, very important. If you don't manage workflow well, there are days you don't have. So when you walk into systems where you see most times everybody, okay, let me use this so you clearly understand. Most times when you walk into certain facilities and you see, you might walk in today and you see that everybody's running helter-skelter. And tomorrow you might walk in and notice that even when there was crowd, They are not running helter-skelter. Most times it's a function of how the managers or the supervisors have been able to manage workflow, because they understand when there's peak period and how to deploy people, and when there's no peak period and how to deploy people. So time management is very key. Then E, delegation, assigning tasks with clarity and expectations. I've talked about that. F, team coaching, training your staff, very important. Now, I always advise managers and supervisors on a weekly basis, take out time apart from your briefing. So let me share this so you guys get to understand. You see, one of the brands that actually shaped my experience was the brand I actually worked as a safety manager, and I keep sharing it. Now, my job as a safety manager was close gaps before it even becomes an issue, identify problems, solve it before it even arises, ensure safety across board for every department, then look at where we have service lapses and inefficiency, and create small briefing. So my job every day was that from Monday to Monday, for every department, I'll look at where there's service inefficiency. We'll create 10 minutes briefing for every department. So today we are in housekeeping, tomorrow we are in F&B, next tomorrow we are in the kitchen. We created briefing for every system just to close the gaps. Now, let me bring it back to you. As a manager, as a supervisor, your training doesn't have to be until you set up a hall, put up a projector. It can be a 15-minute briefing that has 1 or 2 training clips or tips that addresses a particular problem. So you can't wait until you put everybody in a hall and put up a slide. Most times they are just simple tips that helps to solve a particular problem that would have been noticed in the course of service. Then G, conflict resolution. One of the things you must learn to do as a supervisor, you must learn to mediate staff dispute. You must learn to listen to people without being emotional or without taking sides before even making a decision. Then you must handle guest complaints. One of the things that makes a supervisor, or one of the reasons why you're employed as a supervisor, is to be able to solve guest problems or stop the problem before it even becomes very big. H, emotional intelligence. Now, I will add this emotional intelligence class to part of the training before we end the sessions in January, because this is very important. This is always one of my best classes, because if you can deal with emotional intelligence as a supervisor, as a manager, you can deal with a whole lot of things. Emotional intelligence is, first of all, understanding yourself, your emotions, and also understanding the emotions of others, and being able to use it, to ensure that you have a very wonderful working in environment. So emotional intelligence is very broad and very fast. Now, so why are we talking about emotional intelligence, and why do you need this for peak performance as a supervisor? Now, it helps you to understand yourself first. Then emotional intelligence helps you to understand your team. Then it also helps you to manage emotions in stressful situations. So it's one of the key things you need. You need to have emotional intelligence. Now, I will expatiate that when we take up emotional intelligence as a class. So please remind me, we take up emotional intelligence as a class. And so we have 3 more classes to go in January. Then we call this a day. Now, knowledge of SOPs and hotel operation. Now, this is something that is non-negotiable. You cannot be a supervisor without having clear knowledge of the SOPs you're working with and hotel operation. So you must have knowledge of that, service standard, and operational procedures. Now, so let me touch this. So we just start ending the class here. Additional areas every supervisor must master. Number 1, grooming and professional conduct is not negotiable. Customer experience management. So you must read about that and understand the whole customer experience circle and how to manage it, how to curate. We've talked about curating, good experiences. We've talked about curating service or engineering service for customers. So you must have this. You must master customer experience management and know how to ensure that you create a beautiful experience for the customers. Performance monitoring tools. You must be able to monitor people's performance, and the thing that helps you to monitor performance of your staff is checklist, scorecard, and audit. This audit can be daily, this audit can be weekly, but you must audit whatever you're doing. You must audit your service, audit every process of your performance, so that you know if your staffs are actually performing well or not. Then we talk about escalation procedures. When there's an issue, how is the issue escalated or de-escalated? Very important. Now, guest complaint recovery technique. You must teach your staff Now, one of the things you must do as a supervisor is, I keep saying it, assimilate or, simulate every possible problem that can arise. Housekeeping, F&B. Now, write out all the issues that can occur and run solutions with your staff. If it happens this way, now when you do these things together, it equips them to be able to solve this problem when it eventually happens in real life. Now, another thing you must master is workplace discipline and reporting. One of the things, workplace discipline, you must create a clear line of discipline procedures and make them understand that these are the things to do and these are the things not to do. And when you do this is discipline. Now ring it into their head so that when somebody does it, you should be able to take decisions without having to explain the decisions to them. It's very important. So that's why we always say, put these disciplinary things in place for them, communicate it to them at the point of onboarding. As a department to sit down with them, communicate these things. When you've communicated all these things clearly to them, and when they default, you don't explain your decisions because it was clearly communicated to them. It's very important. Now, understand, we talked about the things to master: basic financial awareness, which we've started, we'll finish it, control, cost control, waste reduction. Very important. As a supervisor manager, you need to understand these things. So most times you have to explain it to staff why certain decisions are made, because most times when they have an idea of why certain decisions are made, they are able to sell the product better to the guest without joining the guest to complain. Now, you must also master safety and security compliance, and also training new or junior staff on the service deliverables, becoming a better supervisor. Now, one of the things, also I'll understand that part of this training is supposed to help you become a better supervisor, become better at what you're doing. Now, to grow and excel, to be consistent and fair, these are the things that you're supposed to do better. Give clear feedback and recognition. Never embarrass staff in public. Most of us do these things. Build trust with your team. So this is how you become better at what you do. When you are able to start building trust with your team, it helps you to become better and even helps them to deliver the job more efficiently. Master your department SOPs, very important. Stay calm under pressure, key. Keep learning. Hospitality evolves daily. I keep saying it. If you don't learn daily, you wake up one day and maybe you were managing a 3-star hotel. If you don't keep learning, it will get to a point that even guest houses won't give you jobs because you're no more in trend. You don't know what is happening in this place. Now, ask for guidance when needed. Nobody has monopoly of knowledge. So I would share this. So some years ago, I went to a particular hotel about 10-15 years ago to invite the manager for a master class that we did. It's not up to 15 years. I think it's about 2017, 2016. That should be about 9 years ago. When I went to the hotel, I sat at the front desk waiting for the manager. The manager was at the diesel point supervising pouring of diesel into the generator. Now, let me tell you something. As a manager, when it gets to a point where you have to go and stand and watch them put diesel into the generator, you eventually become useless. You're useless. You don't have what to do. So I waited for the manager to finish and I invited him for a master class. He said that, what are we teaching? He already knows all these things. Today, I can tell you, that guy has begged me for jobs. I think he forgot it was me. But I will never employ him because between that time and now, I've not seen him, add any capacity to himself. He has not grown. So even the hotel he worked years ago cannot even employ him again, because even when that hotel has not even grown bigger, they know that he has gone out of trend. He doesn't really has what it takes to manage any place that eventually grow. Now, so ask for guidance when needed. Keep learning. Always protect the guest experience. Very important. Always protect the guest experience, because the guest is the reason why we're in business. Maintain a positive attitude even during a difficult shift. A great supervisor is one who leads with integrity, discipline, and empathy. A great supervisor is one who leads with integrity, number 1, discipline, 2, and empathy, 3. Conclusion. Let me see how long I have taken. So I think I've done 1 hour. So let me read this. So people that could not join, sorry. There's somebody saying, I would love to have slides of today's training. Okay, so for people that have been disconnected, please, once you upload it into YouTube, you can watch it, you can share to your team, and this is how far we can expatiate, if you want more expansion in all of these things, yes, you come and pay for a private class. Now, supervisors are the engines of hotel operations. We said that when we started. Your leadership determines the quality of your guest experience and the success of your team. So I'll read that again because it's very important. Your leadership determines the quality of the guest experience and the success of your team. So it's very self-explanatory. Now, mastering supervisory skills makes you a strong professional and a valuable asset to any hotel. Mastering supervisory skills makes you a strong professional and a valuable asset to any hotel. Final decision as a student of Open Hospitality Academy. Write your decision. Hmm? Very important. Write your decision. As a student of Open Hospitality Academy, I commit to practicing professional supervisory skills, upholding hospitality standard, and becoming a leader who inspires excellence in every hotel environment I serve. Now, this is your classwork. So for today, hmm, I'm giving you guys an expo of what your classwork is. List 5 daily responsibility of a hotel supervisor. Explain the difference between delegation and supervision. Give 3 examples of how a supervisor can improve team morale. Describe 2 ways to handle guest complaint. Why is emotional intelligence important in hotel supervision? Please snap this. Victor will upload it into the classwork. Now, this is not an objective question, so you have to write this out. So if you like, go and do that thing most of you do. Just go to AI. Now, this is where you test we've done this class. So paraphrase what we've done and see how to answer this. So the thing is, even if you have 100 over 100 and you copy it from AI, you're not doing us, you're actually doing yourself. But most times it's good to try these things on your own and actually see if on your own you can use your own knowledge to put these things together. So this will actually be your classwork. And thank you so much for your time. So please, I think I can take questions. So today's class wasn't for 2 hours, it's an hour. So I can take questions. Or if it's self-explanatory, I think I'll leave it there. Questions, contribution. Mr. Thomas is here, so he can contribute too. All right, but take note, this is our last class, like I said, for the year. What we'll also do, we'll create a form. I wanted to share. We'll create a form, a feedback form. We'll drop it on the group. It is expected that everybody that participated in this class, they should be able to write out their experiences so far. We're expecting that the next cohort should have, we should go bigger. Recommendations should come from you, recommend people, but we'll try to be strict with top managers because we are taking it to another level. For those of you that have participated in this one, yes, maybe towards the year, we would bring you back for another level of training. But we'll create the feedback form. Please, the idea is extensively write out what you've learned, what you're looking forward to adding to your knowledge, and how you're going to go about, putting all these things into practice, and how you go about recommending it to other people. So we really need that feedback so that we can also see if we've done well or if we've not done well, where we need to improve on, and how to better make these classes more interesting. So thank you so much, guys. I can take contributions and questions, so we can call it today and we can go about planning our Oblate party. Thank you. Please, feedback, questions, please, few minutes. We'll just use 5 minutes to do that and we end the class. I'm not seeing anybody. No feedback, no question. That's strange. Tracy doesn't have a question today. Interesting. That's a good development. Okay. Guys. Okay, so please, we would ensure that all assignments are marked and graded so everybody gets to know. Some people have reached out and said, okay, they are not sure that's their scores, maybe because they had 40 over 100. But whatever we've marked is actually what you've done. If you have 100, I wonder why people don't complain when they have 100. Huh? So, but when they have 40, they will come and complain. All right, guys. So please, the assignment will be uploaded on the page very shortly. Get to feel it. So we would give you guys maybe the whole of tomorrow to be able to finish it and submit. And I want to wish you guys a wonderful December. And please, in all you do, put everything we've tried to teach into practice, and let's see how to better the hospitality industry together. It's the little we can do for the industry. So I appreciate you guys, and I wish you a wonderful